Never eaten anybody. Never eaten anybody. Theoretically.
As far as
But
we know.
yeah, I'll be talking about how it works on like a systematic level, like how you can apply it into like society. So go ahead and I'll get into it. So first, I want to go ahead and actually, I think first I'll start with an interesting fact. Cannibalism is only illegal in one state in America. It is only illegal in Idaho, and I don't ever know why. I actually like there's a lot of like rumors and whatnot why it's illegal in Idaho, but in everywhere else, everything around cannibalism is illegal. Like you can't desecrate a corpse, you can't murder anybody, obviously, but eating somebody is perfectly legal. Like, I mean, you have like like legal means. So, uh, I'll be going to talk about health concerns. Like, obviously, there's got to be a reason that we don't eat people, because so we're going to talk about here. What I have here is the human brain. Now, the reason this is important, and the reason I don't just have like a whole body here, is because the human brain has things called prions. Prions are proteins in the brain that, like, when you get like a neurodegenerative disease, which is like a disease that like starts eating away at your brain and whatnot, those prions, which are proteins, they fold or they begin to like corrupt in a way. So theoretically, if you were to eat a human brain with those misfolded prions, you would then contract that brain disease, like where normally you would only contract a prion disease by like birth, like a birth defect. You would now contract it by eating. And this was a study done by John Hopkins Medicine on the effects of prion diseases in like a smaller and larger capacity, like how it presented itself. So here is actually done by Volker H.D. Rudolph, which is a researcher from the University of Virginia Department of Biology, and they went ahead and did a graph here, which shows that the numbers of individuals who were sharing a specific like prey. This is only in like animals, so this is like this can't be like a human human graph, but the what do you call it? The sample is basically the same. So with like lower people or lower animals sharing a same like prey, you like have basically zero chance of disease from these prions because like a lot like prions like they're only active when you're eating like fresh prey. Otherwise, the brain will die out, and then they can't support any of those prions anymore. But so with like smaller like groups eating the same prey, like practically zero chance of disease. But when it gets to larger groups, like really large packs eating on a single prey that might have like a disease, this just a massive chance of disease here, which is why like in a practical sense, using cannibalism in a society, you could eat it like at your dinner table with your family. That's only like four people. Like I mean, that's not a lot of people. Like I can eat people with my family and I won't get sick. Easy. Um, anyway, I'll be talking about Herxheim, which is the closest practical example I could find to eating people that we people have. So Herxheim is in Germany. And this is specifically found in archaeological dig, where they were looking at this town that was really into making like clay and pottery and whatnot. And while they were looking through their like ancient clay and pottery, they found things like human bones. And what are all these human bones doing here? Because it was like next to like some clay pots and stuff. And so here's the interesting part. So these bones, they show evidence of animal-like butchery. So like how you would use like a meat cleaver to cut open a pig or a cow or like a elk or deer or something. That's what these bones show, and they're human bones. So so just seeing like the these bones have been cut open is like one of our main like how we know that these people actually ate other people because they cut them open and like there's also some markings here. These markings are to indicate like actual like cutting and like fractures and whatnot that are reminiscent of like having cut and eaten important parts that are supposedly edible for the human body because you can't just eat like any part of the human body, but a lot of the parts here shown here a lot of these parts, are just average human body, but there are a few bones missing. Like there's supposed to be like some bones around here. I can't remember what they're called. Um,
Which part of the body?
this is right here. This is like the back. The way that the article described it, they said that it was like the rear of the spine. So like a lot of like meat and bone around like the spinal cord, especially bone marrow, which is something they stressed a lot, was eaten and was absent from like these these tests and these bones, and that's important to note because these are the most supposed parts that you can eat. So the fact that these are absent means that we know that they are most likely that they were most likely cannibalized. Now the method, we're not sure if these people were eaten like alive, if they were voluntary, if it was like post mortem, consumption. But for the most part, we can guess that these people were eaten. And so I'm going to move on to how practical application works on a larger scale. Right here, I have a map. This is showing the amount of this is population density in like throughout the world. I just put it over here because America's not important right now. But this is population density. Right here, you'll notice is like really dark blue. That means incredibly population dense. This is South Asia. And if you look over here, there's a bit of an overlap. There's this weird symbol here which shows really like large like noting of undernutrition for people in this area. So they're just not getting the right meats, the right proteins, and whatnot. And
Do you mean malnutrition?
Well, the way that it's said was undernutrition. So I don't think because they're receiving like other like nutrients, and I think they're receiving like food in place of that kind of protein that they need. But the way that it's not sustainable, so that's how it describes it as undernutrition. But malnutrition, yeah, I guess we just use that word. But either way, so here we show like this is an overlap with there. So basically, there's a lot of people, and a lot of people are not eating the right things. They're missing their proteins, which is exactly specifically what I'm looking for, was that they're missing their proteins. And a good source of protein, hypothetically, theoretically, could be people. Because, if you have a lot of people here, and we need to eat a lot of meat, people are meat. So we can eat people. I mean, that's basically, I'm just going to want to dumb it down so I can get my point across. Right now, this is like an impoverished area. I looked at quite a few images, and really these kind of images make me sick. But this is an impoverished area in like South Asia. I think this is Bangladesh. I think this is where I got the food from. And it's just it's just awful with the amount of like people that are over there. It's very poverty ridden, very like poverty stricken. A lot of like natural disasters, wars, things are tearing the place apart has left these people in this kind of state. And like since they're still dealing with like other issues, they just can't get to this right now. So on top of dealing with like an overpopulation issue, like how many people are in this like area, they just can't sustain each other, sustain their lives. We can also deal with just like poverty because now we can have more people occupying less area, and we can eventually like down the line we'll be able to like look at these places and start an effort to fix them. While we first we have to like relook at everybody, the people's houses that were eaten. Because now we have less people, so we can actually manage the population. But basically, another fun fact: pork tastes like human. Does human taste like pork?
What?
Pork supposedly tastes like human. From a German scientist, he said that it does taste like that humans do taste like pork, just slightly more bitter. Slightly is the key word there. Even though pork is a very sweet meat. But yeah, so and thank you. Yes.
Wait, no more pork for me.
Who tried the pork or the human?
So I'm sure because the way I read it, it was very ambiguous. But basically, the way understanding that I got was that they were donated porks that they were allowed to use for testing, and one of the testing was allowing them to eat it to see how it tastes. Yes.
Do you think that wouldn't only just solve like an overpopulation, but like also us hunting some animals for like near extinction or extinction?
That is true. I especially think this would be a good temporary measure because I don't think that
the population is growing and we need more food, and those animals we're gonna hunt them all to extinction.
So you go to eating humans, not any other option? Like,
we're
how many kids
self-sustainable.
you can have?
Like, I've seen a lot
China
of.
tried that. It didn't work.
It did work though.
Yeah,
It worked
I
too
thought
well.
it- I thought it
It's
did.
gonna harm them later.
It is. Well, it's harming them now because there are no women. So.
Yeah. Do you know what the macros are in a person?
I can't remember exactly because I wanted to steer away from the personal side of eating, so I didn't want to say like, oh guys, this guy has so much meat, and this guy
25 grams
So
of
I think
protein.
it's actually on the lower side. It's about as much as like a deer. Like an entire deer is about as much as like a human.
Well, it depends on what type of human you get, though.
That is true. Humans size of human. So it's like some of you probably get like family of 4.
I got a video to show you.
Not right now.
Video.
No, it's not like it's just like a type of thing you can't move.
Okay. Any more questions?
No, just lots of gross observations.
I will say that while I did this,